Welcome to this magical game between Mikhail, long live the Queen Tal, and Alexander Koblenz, played in 61. Without further ado, Tal opens with e4, c5, the Sicilian defense, knight f3, d6, d4 from Tal, striking in the center. We get takes, and knight f3 hitting the pawn. Tal defends with knight to c3, all pretty standard stuff, and a6, the knight door defense, controlling the d5 square and taking it away from white's pieces. Then we get bishop to g5, e6, making some space for the dark squared bishop to develop and to recapture with the queen if white captures the knight. f4 from Tal, wasting absolutely no time with his own attack. Alexander develops the bishop, getting ready to castle. Tal then develops his queen, pairing to long castle at the same time. We get queen to c7 from Alexander, castles, and knight b to d7, continuing with development. Then Tal connects his rooks with bishop to e2. Alexander hits the bishop with h6, trying to determine what its intentions are. Tal gradually drops the bishop back to h4, and then we get b5 on the other side of the board, e5, trying to smash open the center. Then we get bishop to b7, hitting the queen on the long diagonal, so obviously your queen is hit, and what do? Then after some thought, Tal says to hell with the queen and takes the knight on f6, which actually turns out to be the best move in the position. Alexander happily takes the queen on f3, Tal recaptures, simultaneously hitting the rook. Alexander now needs to decide what he wants to do, as the bishop as well as the rook is hanging. And here after some thought, Alexander blocks with a pawn, and this was a crucial point in the game, where Tal made a crazy move. Take a second to see if you can find it. The move was knight takes on e6. Here you don't take the bishop on e7, because your dark squared bishop is hanging. If black takes on f4 with check with the queen, knight taking on e6, hitting the queen and defending the pawn is the best move. Alexander takes, and you still don't take the bishop. You first insert a check on h5, and here the best move for white is to push the g-pawn, basically sacking it. So we get it, g6, blocking the check. Tal takes, and king to f8 from Alexander. We then get the pawn taking the bishop on e7 with check, king to g7, and Tal throws in a sneaky bishop to g3. So if the bishop is captured, black takes the queen with a discovery. As follows. So if you take that, and you're basically losing the queen. In the game we got knight to f6, rook h to e1, the bishop still can't be taken, and ladies and gentlemen, we get the first blunder of the game with b4. Engine wanted queen to d7, and then Tal returns the blunder with the rook taking on a6, not caring about losing more material, which is a knight which is hanging on c3. We get takes and f5 to lock in the bishop on g6. We then get queen to b7, threatening mate in 1, so Tal needs to react, and we get b3, and not taking because it opens up the b file. I'm sure that what was going through Tal's mind. And then queen to d7. We get bishop to e5, pinning the knight to the king. Alexander gives back his queen, as the pressure is just too much for him to handle. Tal takes back, king finally takes the bishop. Now we get a rook to f1 with two attackers on the knight, and you cannot defend with a rook as the e-pawn controls the f8 square. So what to do? So in the game we got knight to h7, giving up the exchange and also controlling the f8 square with the knight. Tal takes, Alexander recaptures, get a rook to f8. We get takes, and takes, and takes, and e7, hitting the knight. So Alexander again needs to decide what he wants to happen. He decided to give up his knight, obviously. Tal accepts, Alexander takes back, and one should note here that the king's position is slightly worse off, or at least better for Mikhail Tal, as his king can now come into the game. And with king to d1, Alexander resigned, as white is up plus 53 on the bar, and it would have continued as follows for those who just wanted to see. We can see his king just dominating the game, and there's no way for Alexander to make it. So hope you enjoyed and thanks for watching.